Welcome to Delta Wave History, your sanctuary for functional, historical boredom. Our focus will remain on the historical, methodical, numerical, and the procedural. This allows your mind to unwind and drift into historical details. Please adjust your volume for a consistent, even tone. We aim for a predictable vocal rhythm, devoid of sudden shifts in pitch or intensity, designed to facilitate a state of tranquil observation and sleep, if you wish. In the mid-19th century, a thin strip of land called the Isthmus of Suez stood as a final barrier between the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. For centuries, the idea of cutting through this desert was a dream, but the reality required moving a volume of earth that defied the human imagination of the era. To create this passage, engineers had to account for 75 million cubic meters of sand, silt, and clay. At first, tens of thousands of laborers worked by hand, their shovels barely making a dent in the vast golden horizon. But as the years turned, the manual effort gave way to the steady, rhythmic pulse of industrial innovation. Massive steam-powered dredgers were brought in, their iron frames silhouetted against the hazy desert sun. These machines worked with a slow, deliberate cadence that dictated the pace of global progress for over a decade. Imagine the long couloir dredger, a marvel of French engineering, sitting heavy in the brackish water. A continuous chain of iron buckets descended into the murky depths, each one biting into the soft floor of the canal. The buckets rose slowly, dripping with thick, wet silt and the salt of the sea. They moved along a high gantry, making a low, metallic grinding sound that echoed across the quiet dunes. Each bucket would eventually reach the top of the chute, tilting with a heavy thud to release its cargo. The wet sand would slide down a long metal pipe, carried by a constant stream of water pumped from the canal. This slurry flowed out onto the banks, spreading thin and wide, slowly building up the new shoreline, meter by meter. Hour after hour, the machinery maintained this cycle, a mechanical heartbeat in the silence of the wasteland. The dredgers moved forward at a pace that was almost imperceptible to the naked eye, sometimes gaining only a few yards in a full day of operation. There were 60 of these machines working simultaneously, their smokestacks trailing thin wisps of grey into the still air. We focus on the number 75 million cubic meters. If you were to pile that sand in one place, it would form a mountain that dominated the landscape for miles. Every single grain of that sand was lifted, transported, and deposited by the relentless motion of the chain and bucket. The water in the canal remained clouded and heavy with suspended sediment as the dredgers worked through the night. Under the pale light of the moon, the clanking of the chains became a rhythmic lullaby for the workers sleeping in the nearby camps. The cooling desert air slowed the steam, creating a soft mist that hung over the water's surface. You can visualize the buckets dipping back into the dark water, disappearing beneath the ripples, and emerging again, full and heavy. The sound is constant, a low-frequency hum of pistons and the splashing of the discharge pipes. There is no rush, only the inevitable displacement of the earth to make way for the sea. The Mediterranean began to seep southward, while the Red Sea crept northward, meeting in the middle of a transformed desert. The once solid ground was now a fluid path, a ribbon of blue cutting through the eternal tan of the sand. As the dredging neared completion, the intervals between the bucket strikes seemed to stretch, marking the final layers of the seabed. The machinery grew quieter as the depths were reached, the resistance of the sand giving way to the flow of deep water. We watched the last of the silt settle at the bottom, the water becoming clear and still as the engines finally come to a rest. The vast silence of the desert returns, but now it is joined by the gentle lapping of waves against the new banks. The 75 million cubic meters are gone, redistributed to create a doorway between worlds. The canal is open, the water is deep, and the motion has finally ceased. Discover more history by watching the next video. We're eager to share more with you. You can't go wrong. All our videos are deeply detailed, dull while fascinating, and distinctly sleep-inducing.